Hello and welcome to another edition of It's a Woman's World. Well, as always, we bring you riveting conversations, and this episode is no different. We are going to be talking with two women in our community. One is doing the work, the intellectual, building up the minds of others, and the other has created an organization that takes the work to the boots on the ground. And we're going to talk about how do they intersect and work together because they do. And so we want to welcome you to this episode of It's a Woman's World. Let me start off by introducing my co-hosts. Let's start with you, Nadia Jordana. Welcome to It's a Woman's World.
I am just delighted to be here today and with these wonderful women.
Thank you. And it's always nice working with you. Candy Pettiford, welcome.
Well, I am so glad to be here. I'm excited. This is going to be a really exciting show. I'm excited about
it. Yes, it is. Well, our first guest is no stranger to the hard work and dedicated to the community, Elfrida Flowers, who is the founder and has given up the job, but was the executive director of Family Values for Life. Welcome, Elfrida Flowers.
Thank you. It's such a blessing to be a part of this show today. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Joan Blakey, who is the Director of Social Work at the University of Minnesota. Welcome, Dr. Joan.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and begin. I was thinking about how do we talk about the intersection between the intellect of the work, the school of the impact that they both bring, and the power that is needed in our community to bring out the best in all of us. So I thought that we would have this great conversation about the two. Let's start first, though, unpacking the background of each one of these powerful ladies. Let's start with you, Elfrida Flowers, with Family Values for Life. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you begin your organization?
Well, I began this organization back in 2010. Back in 2010. It first began as a youth organization in 1999, where we only encompassed working with the youth. Then parents began to say, we need this. We need some of this same information. And so after the death of my husband in 2005, because I've worked with families for over 50 years, I just knew that this was an opportunity and a time to be able to work with the entire family. So in my healing process of going through the loss, I went through a 6-year healing process, and during that time, Family Values for Life was coming up within my mind and spirit. And so I just said, oh, okay. So, and because I know I've worked with families, like I said, for over 50 years, I knew this was time to be able to work with the entire family. So we renamed the organization to Family Values for Life, which now serves thousands of families every year through many different entities of Family Values for Life. So it's something that has really taken off. We both still work with the youth through a program within Family Values for Life called U-Turn 180. We work with the moms or dads now under the Jumpstart to the New You. And then those that are going through grief, loss, or trauma is Beauty for Ashes. So all this is a part of Family Values for Life. And in starting this, how do we do this? We began to bring the community in. We did a town hall meeting back in 2010. In 2010, when we were forming the organization, we had renamed the organization. Then we had a town hall meeting. And when we had that town hall meeting, we found out the needs within the east side of St. Paul. We brought in many different entities of the community to come in and tell us their needs. Because again, we can go and start an organization, but if we don't know the needs, hear from the needs of the community or what they need, then how can we be able to give them what they need? So we found out there was food insecurities. We found out that there was single family homes. 2/3 of the families were single family homes. We found out when children go back to school, they're not prepared to go back to school. We found out that within the different entities, whether it's church, whether it's school, whether it's business, we need to come together and begin to find out how can we connect our resources so that we can be able to service the entire family. So we service the family physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially because we're a whole person.
Nice. And so you deal and built an organization that really identifies the whole person. And it sounds like not just the whole person, but the family, the entire family.
The entire family. Moms, we were working with the moms. Like I said, we found out 2/3 of the households on the east side of St. Paul were single family households. Then now we have dads that are coming and we know that there's not only that moms are not the only ones that raising their children by as a single mom or a single. We found out there's dads as well. So now we do serve fathers as well.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to unpack some of that further. Well, Dr. Joan Blakey, our other guest who is with us, tell us a little bit about how you began your process as the director of social work, the School of Social Work at the University of Minnesota.
Well, I, growing up, really wanted to be a lawyer and was really interested in the law and justice and fairness. And then after undergrad, realized that the law wasn't always about justice and fairness. And so really had to think about a different career. And that's how I found social work. Social work mission is around social justice, around helping individuals, families, communities. And it really spoke to me in terms of what I wanted to do with my life. So I became a social worker, worked in child protection for a number of years, and then decided that I wanted to go back to school to get my doctorate. And a lot of that had to do with families, and the way we were serving families was not, in my opinion, helpful. And particularly for Black families, we weren't seeing them in terms of their resilience and their strengths. We were always seeing them in terms of the pathology and what was wrong with them. And so I really wanted to be a part of conducting research, a part of conducting the work that really showed the strength and resilience of our families. And so my mentor said, well, you got to go back to school and get your PhD. And so that's what I did. And so my career has taken me many different places, but coming back to my alma mater, which is where I graduated and got my MSW, and leading the School of Social Work has been a real joy of mine. And being able to give back to a school that's given me so much is really the reason why I came back.
Nice. Nice. Well, I heard two things from both of you, is that we really, in the work that we are doing and creating, it's really addressing the needs of the community and really unearthing what is truly needed. And a lot of times it is addressing those disparities that come up, whether you are teaching it and whether you are living it. And we know that in the School of Social Work, oftentimes the need is not necessarily translated to folks who might not be from the community, right? And yet some of those folks will come work in the community without knowing what is needed. And what I like about what you said, Elfrida, is that your work was really unpacking what was needed and looking at what was needed. So let's talk about some of those disparities that you recognized, Elfrida, within your work. Do you find, like you said, you're serving single families, single fathers, you're serving, disenfranchised homes in many cases. Do you find that most of the work that you are doing is serving a certain type of cultural population? And how has that come up in the work that you are doing with Family Values for Life?
Well, we serve primarily Family Values for Life. We really serve African American families, which we don't turn any family away. But because of the disparities within African American, Native American families is so far greater than some of the needs in other cultures, we have really focused on African American. We found out it just within, and my background too allowed me to be a licensed daycare provider for 18 years, raising my own 8 children. And from that point on, seeing the needs of, and I mostly focus on single parents again. And so you saw such a need, not having the father in the home, where families so many times, the mom just needed somebody to talk to, somebody to be with them, or their children being around a two-family home. And then working in the St. Paul Public Schools for a number of years, seeing again many children coming to school without coats, without the necessity things that they need that from day to day that, my children would automatically have. But because I was a resource coordinator, I saw the need, a parent resource coordinator, I saw the needs. And then seeing during the summer that the first week that the kids are out of school, again, seeing the need of children not having food, that food deficits that first week. Because when they come to school, that's a place that they can come to school every day and know there's going to be a meal, know that somebody's going to greet them, know that somebody's going to say hello or give them a hug, where many times in their homes they don't get that. And so seeing all of these different areas of deficits that our children and our families are having, because many times moms or dads, their deficit is because of where their backgrounds, their family situations. Everybody wants to be loved. So you're looking for love, but sometimes you're looking for it all in the wrong places. And when you didn't get love, how can you give love? And so many of our children are looking for that love. The moms, the dads, they're looking for love as well. They're looking for someone to tell them that they care. And so again, going to seeing that need, the food, making sure kids got food that first week of school being out. And so it just goes on. And then the clothing and things, Christmas time, different times when you see maybe your children getting the things that they need and other children not. And so we try to provide food at Thanksgiving time. We try to provide food and clothing and things during our back to school event. So we serve over 3,000 students when they're going back to school. So, and we don't only serve them with backpacks and school supplies. We serve them with clothing. There's a clothing line. There's a produce line. There's many things that I saw when working in the schools that were a deficit. And so we have put it all in within our organization to help our children have a great start back off of school. We even did haircuts. Just many things that you see children did not get, and they were not prepared to go back to school like other children. So you don't want and then I worked in a program called the Homeless Program when I was in St. Paul Public Schools. And those children were separated from they call them you get in the homeless line. And then the other children, the regular ed line. Well, we have to come in and educate those schools that we don't want to put a difference between these kids, because we could all be homeless overnight. Just one catastrophe, we could all be homeless. Or they could be homeless. So we just that mindset and then being able to meet all the needs, as many needs as possible that we can for families. And I get excited. I'm so passionate about it because
I love that.
So much that you give and you see and you want to just continue to give to make families thrive and to know that you care about them. That's all they need, is somebody that know that somebody cares about them.
That's right. Well, Nadia, looks like you had a question.
I do have a question. I have a question for Joan. I think what Alfreda was telling us is absolutely fantastic. That was a wonderful program on doing great things in the community. And Joan, I had a question for you. As I look at what I've seen here under your name, the Black women interpersonal trauma that you were talking about, does that encompass domestic abuse? Is that part of that? I just wasn't 100% sure.
Yes. Interpersonal trauma covers, yeah, domestic violence, sexual abuse, physical abuse, rape. So all kinds of interpersonal violence. It can also encompass racial violence that happens for people of color. So yes, it runs the gamut. Mhm.
Talk a little bit about that program or what
Um, well, that's my research. So, but in schools of social work, we really focus on some of the things that Ms. Flowers said in terms of the micro level issues. Um, but we also train social workers to talk about the macro issues. And so oftentimes the micro issues are sort of the day-to-day needs, the things that are, sort of immediate. But, we liken it to sort of taking, the babies out of the water, and we're helping sort of one baby at a time, instead of thinking about how are the babies getting in the water in the first place. And that's where the macro social work comes in, is really thinking about what structural changes need to happen so that we don't have the families in the positions that they're in. How do we change policies? How do we change systems and structures to make them more responsive to the needs of the community, so that we don't have some of the social problems that we have now.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too, as Ms. Flowers was speaking and talking about all the different kind of the bottom rung issues. If we were thinking about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're thinking more of some of those basic needs. And I know that with the social workers in which you are working with, you are teaching them the different various capacities. I wanted to ask you, when you are working in, the realm of social work, and we know that social work again is dominated, mostly by white women who are going into our communities and working in that realm. How do you prepare them, for the actual work, in overcoming some of their inherent biases when they're doing the work, so that they are giving healthy applied application to what it is that they're learning at the University of Minnesota?
That's a great question. And honestly, we're working on that. I mean, I think it's a constant struggle. The murder of George Floyd really
Oh, wow. Yes.
made social work students really across the nation really really pushed for social work education to change to look at those issues, to look at issues of race, racism, bias, and how we were preparing social workers. And it's interesting because I've held many leadership positions in schools of social work. And in some cases, many of the things that social workers or students want doesn't yet exist. And I say that because, primarily the clients that we serve are families of color, yet most of what they learn is around how to work with white families. And so, we have classes here and there that deal with race and racism and other kinds of differences, but it's woefully inadequate in terms of what we need. And so we are moving in that direction. We are really looking at that. My scholarship has changed to really think about, what does it mean to decenter whiteness in social work education? What does it mean to serve families of color? And so I guess we're on the sort of the cusp of really changing and trying to figure out, what does that look like and what does that mean. The Council of Social Work Education has now made one of their competencies is racism, anti-racism, And so it's very explicit in the training that we provide. We have to demonstrate how we are helping students to gain those competencies. And so as a field, we are moving in that direction. But I cannot say that we are there. It's a work in progress.
It definitely is. It
Now,
definitely is.
to ask both of you, what would you like to see change? What would you like to see with the families? What would you like to see, first of all, that's primary, like number one, I'd like to see this change? Starting with you, Ms. Flowers. What would you like to see change?
Well, one of the biggest things that because now I'm doing some things with the county as well, Ramsey County, and I want to see us all working with the family to help better them, to help coach them, to be all that they can be, sustainable. Because many times we'll do things, but we do things thinking this is what they need without bringing them in. So the biggest thing that I would love, and this is something that we're working with through the county right now. We're using a book that's called With, and we talk a lot about working with the community, working with the family. And so working with brings you to know what a family needs and help them, coach them to get to where they need to go.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question for both of you also. What programs in the encompassing of the work that you've each been doing in the recent couple of years, what are the programs or parts that you really feel the most thrilled about, where you've had some really wonderful progress that stands out?
Joan, do you want to go first?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing that I've seen, again, Family Values for Life tries to do different things to encompass the entire family. So we have the U-Turn 180 for the youth. We have the Jumpstart to the New You for the adults. And then we have the Beauty for Ashes for those that are going through trauma, grief, and loss. And so I've seen, when you work with a family that's been in homelessness or in transition, and then you get a chance to continue to work with them after they come out of the shelter or out of the transitional housing, and they continue to call you, that's success. When we see families that are in our Jumpstart to the New You program, and they'll go and, you may start out with 40, and you end up, just yesterday, they were sharing with me, I was in a meeting yesterday or the day before, they had 40 registered, but they had 17 actually that are coming. And those 17 and 19, one of the two, that's success, because they're going through a 9-week program. And those things are success. When you can get consistency, you get a whole lot of people to sign up for things. But that consistency, saying, I'm getting it. I have another mom that through our Beauty for Ashes program, or moms that, like I said, they were in our transitional housing, and now they're in their own places. I have about 3 or 4 moms like that. And I'm still able to meet with them. Some of them are the first one to get on the line, when we have our meetings. So that's success, when you can continue to work with the family, even when they leave in a contained group setting that they have to go through a program. And now they're getting it for themselves because they're calling in, they're getting on the line and said, okay, I continue to need help. That's success.
Now, Dr. Joan, you didn't get a chance to answer my question about
I will
like to change. I'd love to hear.
I think it will sort of combine you and Nadia's question. I think that what I'd like to change is really focusing on the structural issues that cause families to be in the situations that Ms. Flowers is talking about. I think that programs are necessary, but programs are not going to change the circumstances of families that end up in this way. And I guess that's what I'm saying, is that I think programs are needed, but programs often focus on the issue being the families, the issue being them and them needing to change. And we've rarely focused on the policies. We rarely focus on the structural racism that causes families to be in situations they are. And so I think we need both. I mean, we need to help families where they are and, you know, where they're needed, but this is not an individual pathology kind of issue. This is a structural issue. And until we begin to deal with the policies and practices that cause families to be in the situations that they are, we are not going to really make a difference. And so I would focus on structural issues. And that's what I think one thing we could do to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And that's the change, the structural.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I just have one more question about this intersection of the social work and the structural pieces to the boots on the ground and actually doing this work. How can we as women be more impactful to work on the both in the work? If you could give me maybe a quick summarization, and then our time is up.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think
Go ahead,
easily
Joan.
it's training. It's around training. We oftentimes have students choose micro or macro, and I think that when I was in school, there was an opportunity to choose both, and so I chose both because it is both. I think that even if you're doing therapy with families, there are still macro structural issues that need to be addressed as clinicians, and vice versa. And so I think it's really training social workers to be adept in working in both realms. And so that's what I would say.
Just real quick.
Just going along, right along with Joan, is that continuing to bring all the different partners in it to the table. So you have the family, you have the social workers, you have the St. Paul schools, you have all the different entities, the business community, the church community, you have all these entities together, and that's what helps change a family, circle.
Beautiful.
So it's bringing everybody to the table.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, as you know, our time goes by so fast. I want to thank each of you ladies for being here. And as we continue to bring the impact and the intersection of the intellect and the work, we are going to continue to make changes. Well, thank you for being here with It's a Woman's World. And of course, I am your host, Jamila Pettiford. We'll look for you again on It's a Woman's World.